And we're live.
All right. And welcome back to the Business and Brew Shows. I'm Gavin Vincent.
I'm Ryan Smeltz, and tonight we finally tracked him down. We have Aaron with Quality Service Today. Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
I'm Aaron. I've been plumbing about 15 years, commercial, residential, some industrial work. I've been in business about 2 years. I primarily focus on residential more so than anything. I do some commercial. That's pretty much it. As far as well-rounded water treatment, well pumps, regular plumbing, drain cleaning, excavations, standard just replacements, all of the above.
Awesome.
That's
Well,
cool, man.
thank you for being here, man. Definitely appreciate you coming on the show. I know we can't tell because there's no beard, but I think there's a little bit of a relation here.
Yeah.
Just a slight little bit.
Just a slight little bit.
Slight bit.
We met yesterday.
I found him on the side of the road.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for you guys that don't know, this is actually Ryan's brother, which is awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome, yeah.
I've been trying to get him to come on for a while because I like the name of his company.
Yeah.
I know he does quality work.
Yeah.
And we talked to that one guy that does roofing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of similarities, especially with misconceptions that homeowners have when it comes to service work being done in their home.
Yeah.
I know he cleared that up. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually looking forward to this one. Should be pretty good. So, how's everything going with you? You guys have a pretty good Thanksgiving?
yeah. So we went to her cousin's house
Mhm.
and ate. I feel like that's all I did all day was eat.
Kind of looks like it.
I'm good at it. I'm good at it.
So yeah, man.
Do what you're good at,
That's
right?
right, man.
What about you guys?
Went to her parents in Roanoke Rapids and
Nice.
ate too much.
That's always good.
So
Eat,
yeah.
eat, eat. That's what's up. What about you?
Went to my grandmother's house, and it was great because my in-laws actually came over, so we only had to make one stop. It was perfect.
Nice.
Not a bunch of driving. It was awesome. Everybody at one spot, we had to go to one place. So it was definitely good. What are we drinking on tonight, bro?
Oh, so this is Thunderstruck Coffee Porter. So this is by Highland Brewing Company out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Nice, nice. Well, here, cheers to a good show.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I guess we'll jump right into it. You want to start it off, Ryan, and jump right into a deep dive of the business?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So Aaron, thinking about plumbing, and I mean, we kind of heard this off camera a little bit, but what gave you the idea? How did you get started? What was like the moment? You know.
I mean, do you want the actual answer to that, or do you want the one that sounds good?
Can we get both?
In all reality, if I, step back in all of 15 years, ultimately, even as a kid, I was always creative. I love just making things out of nothing. And believe it or not, a lot of that goes into plumbing, especially when you're working on certain things. You got to get really creative. Of course, there's legality issues that you got to follow, but a lot of times when it comes to repair, you got to think outside the box. It's not cut and dry. There's nothing brand new. You got to learn to make it work, especially when you're working on real old houses.
Oh, yeah.
So it's something that I got into at a young age, when I was 16, and I just kind of took it from there. It's something I love doing. I love working with my hands, talking to people, talk to a lot of people, meet all kinds of people that do some of the craziest things. I think is some of the cool thing I like about it. I've met people I'd never imagined that there was a career doing that, but they're doing it. So, so it definitely it's something different every day.
It definitely is. So how's your journey so far? I know you said, how long have you been doing it so far?
I've been doing it right at 2 years.
Okay, so how was the journey from going from being a W-2 employee to being a business owner? How's that transition been for you?
Scary. Scary. I'm I'm not a desk and computer and paper kind of person. It's the worst thing in the world for me to do, to sit down and do anything on that. When I click a button and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, I don't know where to put a wrench on it, so I just want to throw it out. That's probably my biggest downfall in business.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Is the clerical work.
Yeah.
I hate doing it. So yeah, that's probably, going into business is probably one of the scariest things I ever did.
Yeah, it really is. But the good thing is, as far as the clerical piece of it, you can always outsource that. You can always find somebody, a good CPA or a good accounting person to make sure your books are done.
They make those? Because I've learned that business down there.
Yeah, you definitely gotta surround yourself with people so you can do what you love to do and the things that you're actually good at. Because it sounds like the clerical part, you definitely don't like
No,
it.
I don't like it. I'm not good at it. I don't care about it.
Yeah.
Down the
I
road,
understand.
I would love to grow,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay where I'm at. Like, I'd rather just let somebody else sit in the office. I will work for myself.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So I want to go back a little bit, because you talked about it, like getting creative and meeting all kinds of different people, and then you talked about older houses, like as it relates to getting creative. So what are maybe some pieces of advice you would offer to someone that has an older house that sees those types of problems arising?
As far as,
Like whether it deals with their plumbing specifically, or say they're having a certain type of problem, like a water pressure problem or a drain problem.
what do they need to look for?
What do they need to look for, or are there things they could do to prevent stuff like that?
I mean, one of the biggest things, to do to prevent any kind of plumbing related issue is, have it checked out.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things I give to, you said you were in real estate a little bit,
Yeah.
is I give to anybody that's buying a house is one of the best things you can absolutely have done is have a sewer line camera.
Mm-hmm.
Houses sit vacant, roots grow wild then.
Mm-hmm.
There's no telling how many people I go to where they're like, I just bought this house last week and the sewer line's backing up.
Yeah.
Have a heat and air guy, have an electrician, have a plumber come in and do a trade specific inspection, because unfortunately, everybody has their good points, but like me, I carry a sewer camera on my truck. That the home inspectors
Mm-hmm.
that do those, they don't.
Right.
And they're up to date on some codes here and there, but there's no specific training course for that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as getting into that, and so there's a lot of prevention there just by shooting a camera down the line.
Yeah.
If you're living in an old house, if you notice your pressure fluctuating, you can have the pressure checked. You can actually buy a pressure gauge from your local box store. They usually sell them for in the irrigation departments.
Mm-hmm.
Screw them on a hose spigot. The state says anything over 80 psi is excessive pressure on your plumbing system.
Mm-hmm.
That'll help prevent a lot of drippy faucets, runny toilets, a lot of things.
That's a good point.
You just screw that pressure gauge on. If you got pressure over that, it'd be a good idea to reach out to a professional and see about having a regulator valve installed or replaced. They do go bad.
You're right. I mean, you're exactly right as far as the actual home inspection. I mean, I know whenever we're actually looking at houses with an actual client, one of the things we usually look for is if there's any polyurethane pipes, or if there's a septic tank. Of course, that requires a separate inspection, over and beyond the actual home inspection itself. But those are very valid points. Definitely. Brian's up and moving.
And the polybutylene's a good one. That's brought. I've gone to tons of houses, and that pipe was funny. It had the lawsuit, and of course it's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Some people had a lot of problems. Some people had problems with the fittings.
Right.
At the end of the day, if they have that kind of piping,
Mm-hmm.
it's unknown when's the problem going to start. You know, it's like driving a car with 500,000 miles on it. You never know. Well, I might make it a mile. I might make it 10 today.
You never know.
You know, I love that answer I love hearing that. Well, it's never happened before.
Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't mean it won't happen.
yeah, you know, and I don't want to insult anybody when I say things like that, but
Yeah.
you know, it's like when you go to the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've gotten a cold and stuff like that before,
Mhm.
but at some point in your life, there was a first time for it.
Exactly.
You went to the doctor. Well, now it's happened before. You know, there's the first time. Things are going to start.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I got a couple of questions. One, back when you were talking about the camera and stuff, it sounds like a couple of things that people can do, which are pretty simple, is get that pressure gauge and check their pressure to see if there's possibly already an existing issue. That sounds pretty affordable and easy. You go to Home Depot, get a gauge, and boom, you have an answer right there.
Yeah.
And number two, you said camera the line. So that tells me if I own a house and I'm calling a plumber, I might want to say, can you guys camera my sewer line? Because it sounds like not every single plumber has one of those.
Well, and see, that's a thing to, yeah, that's definitely a good question. And, I mean, like you were talking about pressure, I pretty well check pressure anytime I work on anybody's house.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it sounds funny to people, why are you checking my pressure on my hose spigot when you're working on my faucet? Well,
All coincide.
water pressure is your house's blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's high, it's gonna cause things to leak, drip, ultimately rupture.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, you know, your faucet's old, it starts dripping from it. So of course I'm gonna check the water pressure. Even if I'm there to clear a drain, just kind of common courtesy. You don't go to the doctor and if you go to the doctor and get a Band-Aid for a scratch, they're gonna check your blood pressure. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I guarantee that it will.
Check your weight.
It's just it's given a professionalism to the service and letting you know, hey, just to let you know you got high water pressure on your house, you know.
Yeah.
Because not to get too far out of it, but I can get real into detail. You live in a real small town. They don't start out with high water pressure. You know, you get down here, Raleigh, Durham,
Mm-hmm.
it's astronomical. I'm talking 150 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Raleigh didn't start out that high water pressure on all these houses. Back in the day, you know, as they build, they have to keep boosting to get all them houses that they're building up 401 and all over the place in
Yeah.
Wake County. So it just keeps getting worse
Right.
ultimately. So that's one thing that everybody should take into mind. Hey, I might live in a small town, my water pressure is okay,
Mm-hmm.
but this town's growing,
Right.
you know.
Never heard that. Yeah, I've never thought about that. That's a great point, though.
Now it's code that houses have to have pressure regulators,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have that issue, them older homes that don't have them.
Yeah.
They fail roughly around 10, 12 years. Excuse me, what you see roughly out of a pressure regulator valve.
Mm-hmm.
And that valve basically just keeps the city pressure from going into your home.
That's something good.
So my second question was, you talked a little bit about the polybutylene pipe. It's gray, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because when we moved into our place, we had it on water heater.
Oh wow.
Second week,
Mhm.
it quit. Water heater flooded the whole back area.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So homeowners being able to, would it be safe to say if they see gray pipe, like that's polybutylene, or is that?
If it's a gray color, yeah, pretty much dark gray, a grayish color is going to be polybutylene piping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know on the whenever you're buying a house, the seller has to disclose whether or not it has that piping in it. So yeah, but I mean, it never. Yeah, definitely something you want to definitely get inspected.
They ought to disclose whether or not the water heater's in the attic.
Yeah,
It should be an insurance requirement to have an emergency automatic shut-off valve on
If
those.
it's in that, yeah, you're exactly right.
But you would ask me too about asking the plumber, hey, about cameras. unfortunately, a camera is an investment. It's definitely a costly piece of equipment. It's all fiber optic, LED, pretty high tech stuff.
Right.
A lot of companies don't want to invest in each individual truck having a camera, or they just don't have one. They have one at the shop, or they don't have one. I keep my stuff on my truck, and I plan as I grow to make sure each truck has one of those, because it's offering a service anytime you clear a drain to let somebody know why did that drain stop up. So that's definitely a good question to ask, because you might get somebody out at your house without a camera, period.
Yeah.
Let alone they're like, hey, let me run back to the shop. I didn't know you wanted this.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, just touching on that, what do you feel like some of the common misconceptions that people have about plumbers or plumbing in general? Like, what are some of the things that should be looking for in a plumber?
I mean, everybody thinks we're nasty.
I don't know. You look pretty clean to me.
I hear that a lot.
I think that's one of the biggest ones is people are like, isn't that dirty? Yeah, some days, I won't lie, some days I have where I really question my ability to make good career decisions about myself. But it's really not as bad as what a lot of people think. I work on water way more than I work on sewer.
Yeah.
Replacing bathtubs, things like that. It's really not bad. It has its days, but that's probably one of the biggest things is like we had talked about before the show. They always want to know. They want to get on the phone and they want to price over the phone.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest, probably misleading things I could do for my customer. Because number one, I haven't checked the water pressure. I haven't looked, is this going to be cut and dry? Is it going to be difficult? How old is your house? What kind of pipes do you have? It's something that really needs, no matter what the situation, every house is different. Every area is different. Nothing's the same. It's kind of like, just like people. There's not one, two made the same. Really, houses are the same way.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, they get on the phone. They want the cheapest price. Or what's your price? They don't totally understand what they're getting.
I mean, it sounds like that to me. This sounds like something you want to get right, because the plumbing is a crucial part of the home. I mean, if you have a leaky pipe, or if you have pipes that fail, it's going to be catastrophic as far as the outcome of that. So it's something you kind of want to get right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's something you want to diagnose first before and actually get all the facts together before doing it over the phone.
It's kind of like if you called me and said, hey, my faucet, this is a good simple example, like we've been talking about pressure. If you called me and said, hey, my faucet's dripping, how much is that going to cost?
Where's it coming from?
I could give you, hey, send me a picture. Okay, I can give you an answer, but it's going to be, it's disappointing. You get out there, number one, sometimes they don't have brands on them, especially the ones that aren't proud of the product they make. Even some real high-end brands tend to not put names on them, but it's not as simple like your granddaddy used to do, is go in the house and change a washer anymore.
Right.
They have specific cartridges and things that got to be put in, and you definitely don't want to be using universal products on it. So number one is this guy that gave you this price using a universal part or a knockoff part to make it more cost effective, or number two is what if your water pressure's high? So now I'm answering that question, then I come out to your house and I check your water pressure, and it's astronomical. You live on, Wade Avenue, and your water pressure's through the roof. Well, me as a professional, yeah, it's the right thing to do to give you an option. Hey, this is how much this, now you're disappointed in me because now I found something that's contributing to the issue, that's the actual cause of the issue,
Right.
most likely. So now you're disappointed that now, oh, well, you told me this much, and now you're saying that, this is how much that's gonna cost me. So to me, it's just a total disservice to be without properly diagnosing it. I hate using that as a subject because they got all them jokes out there, but you call the doctor up, hey, what's wrong with me? Most of the time they're gonna say, hey, you need to come in.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just the professional thing to do. I mean, you definitely want to give a right answer versus just giving them a quick answer. So I understand that.
It's kind of a good example too is an oil change. Well, you probably don't drive the same kind of car that I drive.
Yeah.
If you call it, hey, how much is your oil change?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna want to know the year, make, model, what engine. For the most part,
Right.
that's in the vehicle, because now there's a gazillion. If you have a diesel vehicle over a gas one, the cost is double for an oil change. So how disappointed would you be if you showed up and they were like, oh, well, you didn't tell us it was a diesel?
Yeah.
That's gonna be double. You're gonna be really disappointed.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing I want to do. I like to be real upfront, clear with people.
Yeah.
Typically if they got high pressure, there's never a have to. If I come to your house, it's your house, I'll probably have you sign off, hey, you didn't want to have the pressure regulator replaced or added at this time. Because of course it's a liability issue for me.
Right.
I worked on it.
Mm-hmm.
I walk out of your house and it blows apart, but
Yeah.
it's a disservice to not at least educate you on it and offer it to you completely.
So basically, something you said a second ago was options. So, they get you out to the house, you take a look at it, you're not telling somebody you have to pay this amount and fix all this stuff. You're saying, here's what we got going on, here are your choices to get it repaired.
Yeah. Yeah, this is something that it took me a while to get it. Everybody in the service industry has it stuck in their head that I'm the professional, I'm gonna tell you what your house needs. Well, unfortunately, you might make $2 an hour and he might make $10 an hour. So everybody's budget's gonna be different. I like that example. Everybody's budget's everybody's budget is different. Everybody's different at the end of the day. And I've talked to people that had me do things that I thought was the dumbest thing in the world. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm the professional and I'm sitting here thinking that is the stupidest thing that I could ever do in your house. Like a good example, one time I piped in a bypass on a hose faucet for a house so he could switch it. If he ever had to shut his main water off, he would still have water at that hose spigot. Now somebody like me, I think that's stupid because I'm a plumber. Number one, if the well pump goes out, I'll change it. No matter what, I'm gonna get water. It's not gonna be that hard. But then so as a service professional, you got to remove yourself from that mindset. I need to put my mindset as, okay, I know nothing about plumbing. What would make this person's life easier in the event of an emergency? So you got to ask questions. You need to say, hey, does this happen a lot? Do you like this? What would make their life easier, and what's the best option for them? I've been to houses that have the pink toilets and they want to keep them. I wouldn't have a pink toilet, but hey, I'm not looking at their pink toilet every day. I promise you that. I'm more than happy to fix that,
old pink toilet,
30-year-old pink toilet, at the end of the day, I like to think of that, and it seems like that was one of my goals when I went in business, is to offer good professional service, to educate people and let them choose what's best for their house.
Right.
Because, you know, my plumbing's on me,
Mhm.
you know?
All right, so I mean, with that, I mean, that definitely is a great point. Being in the service industry, and it seems like there are plumbers and contractors out there that give the profession a bad name as far as trying to take advantage of people that don't quite understand.
Totally.
What are some of the things that people need to be looking for? Is it, you know, if they're gonna hire a plumber? Is it
Options.
options?
I mean, that's another thing that helps with is, you know, when you have somebody come in your house and they're like, this is what you need and this is how much it's gonna cost you. That immediately, especially when we're talking thousands. Unfortunately, good plumbing's not cheap,
Yeah,
but,
unfortunately. Yeah. Well, you get what you pay for, I would imagine.
yeah, definitely. You know, when you say what to look for is number one, you know, your Google reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Google is one of the most strict. I don't know what you'd call as far as internet based. You know, internet's not my thing, but they're the strictest out there. They don't pick and choose what shows up, what reviews show up at the top of the list. They don't pick and choose who can leave one. Is what they do. They do monitor where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So with Google, you know, you can pay people, believe it or not, you can pay people for reviews out there in this world. You know, that's dirty, right?
Yeah. It is.
Google will crack down on that. They red
Yeah.
flag that. They will shut you down. They will turn your page off. You will not show up on their platform anymore.
Yeah.
And they will fine you, I think it's multiple thousands of dollars. That's some things I've looked into versus, you know, Facebook, you know, as much as I like Facebook and everybody likes Facebook these days, Facebook can be deceiving.
Right.
Anybody can go on my business page right now, whether I've met them in my life before, and leave me a review.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing stopping them.
Right.
That can work good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got other platforms out there. You know, I don't want to nitpick. You know, I don't want to talk bad about Angie's List or anything, but platforms like that's probably a totally different subject. But one of the biggest things to look for is I think is website.
Mm-hmm.
Look at their website. Look at their reviews. 1 5-star review shouldn't really say a whole lot.
Right.
You know, if they're, I think I hear that a lot too. Is I'll get referred on Facebook pages. I guess I should be careful about how I say things on here. Somebody might be knocking on my door tomorrow. But you know, Facebook. I hear people say, "Yeah, I heard about you on Facebook, and I checked out your reviews." You know, they usually go to Google. They go to so. If you're looking for a contractor, you go to Facebook. That's fine, but look into the person more so than that referral,
Mm-hmm.
because you know, not that my family would lie for me, but you know, you got people out there that would say, "Hey, call my brother, call this person," just because they're blood relative or it's a buddy of theirs that they drink beer with on the weekends. Definitely look into the person.
Right.
You know, give them a call. You know, pay attention. How do they answer the phone? Do they answer the phone? Do they call you back?
Right.
I try to always answer my phone 24/7. That's difficult sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, do they take 4 days to call you back?
Yeah. That's usually
You know, that's a big sign there of what kind of value you are to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you said too, is you know, we talked about upfront money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I try to refrain from taking anybody's money up front. because that is one of the biggest issues in this industry. Not so much taking money for, how do I word this? That's just one of the biggest issues is a contractor taking money and not performing the job,
Right.
or taking 4 times longer than it should to do the job.
Right.
But when it comes to taking 4 times longer, it's disappointing, but did the job get done good, right? You know, that's one thing. I wouldn't really say anybody really took advantage of there.
Right.
But that's the biggest thing is contractors taking money and not coming back.
Yeah. That's a very big
Not-
thing, right? Yeah.
Not doing what they say they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So that's one reason that I try to refrain from taking any kind of deposits. You know, most stuff's returnable. Sometimes it costs me money. If, you know, a job falls through or something, I've already got things lined up. But that's a big thing for me, is just not, I don't want anybody to be nervous about me finishing a job and doing the job I said I was gonna do before I received payment.
Right. That's a very great point.
So, we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but I am curious. You kind of just talked about like what the customer needs to look for and stuff. When it comes to you and running your business and where you're at right now, what are some challenges that you're currently facing?
Challenges. Keeping up with work sometimes. You know, you know, definitely around the holidays gets tough, like the week of. You get a lot of people that put things off, and then they start thinking, oh, hey, it's a holiday, I need to jump on it.
Yeah, people come.
You know, I think I worked, 40 some hours in 3 days trying to go away for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Yeah.
Make sure you can eat.
Yeah, trying to go away and, you know, trying to get everybody taken care of that was calling, hey, I forgot about this, or hey, this just happened. You know, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest downfalls is, you know, just trying to keep up with workload right now.
Just one guy.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
one guy.
That's a good problem to have. I mean, being,
Yeah.
you know, having too much work.
Definitely.
The opposite definitely would be good.
I mean, I look back now and I remember just sitting around stressing, like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, I need work. And I would let it like just eat me alive, that I would do nothing all day except sit around and think, how am I gonna get work? It's definitely different now. Now I wish I hadn't hated not having work back then. And it never work in this industry. It's never steady.
Yeah.
It's either way, it's always up and down, so that's a struggle, because unfortunately it's funny that, you know, nobody plans on their pipe to burst or their water heater to go out. You know, and it seems like all those people always call at the same time.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's feast or famine, right?
It is 100% in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So you ready to do the questions we have, Brian? Ready to transition to that, or you got anything else?
One more.
One more? I
One
like
more.
it. Let's do.
We kind of already talked about this as well, but I'm curious, like, later on down the road, big picture, you know, where do you see this going? What's like your ultimate goal?
I definitely don't want to. One of the biggest problems I see with really, really, really big companies is, you know, I can't outgrow my name. So it gets really hard to maintain efficiency, quality. You know, it's hard to overlook. It's hard to keep everything in one when you get so big. Making sure that customers are taken care of, making sure the quality of work's done right. So I never want to outgrow my name.
Yeah.
I eventually, yes, I'd like to have people working for me, technicians, but, I wanna be able to maintain one of the highest levels of service I can possibly offer to a homeowner. You know, to make sure they're taken care of, the work's done right, and, you know, standing behind my work.
Yeah.
So, cause it, you know, you get to a point where a lot of these companies, they'll just hire anybody because they got the work, they've been around so long, and I don't wanna be that, I don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
It's real quick to get a bad name doing that.
Very easy. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
You know,
So, sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that question. Thank you for circling back to that. That's usually the one.
Well, some people.
Do you usually ask that one, or is it me usually?
I think we just, I try
Yeah.
to touch all the bases. I just like asking that one because some people wanna be Amazon,
Yeah.
and some people, like he just said, want a certain level of quality, and
I'll give you a good example of Amazon, and I won't say any names because I wouldn't. It's just not good for business. But there's businesses out there that are so big, and Amazon. When you're talking service industry,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Amazon's a little bit on a different level.
Right.
It's all internet based. A lot of, you know, it's convenience. When you're talking about a service industry, people going to somebody's house, when you get over a certain size, like I said about efficiency, there ends up being communication issues.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many turning parts that have to turn together
Mm-hmm.
that it seems like the biggest companies in the industry, how do I word this? They just don't, there's too many connecting issues that aren't lining up there.
they forget where they came from.
It's just like that, you know, they forget where they came from, and I'm trying to think of the best way to word this is, there's just a lot of miscommunication, you know, the quality of work goes downhill.
Mm-hmm.
They need higher revenue. That's probably the best way to put it. They need higher revenue to make up for the inefficiencies.
Right. Right. Yeah, because it seems like the work is going to be there because it's just one of those industries that there's a huge demand for it, and they're just trying to keep up, and the quality is suffered. Is what it sounds like.
And once you get big enough, once you get so big, everybody's like, oh, I've seen
Yeah.
their trucks, I've seen this. They got their brand
Yeah.
out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows who they are, so they're just like, pick up the phone and call them,
Mm-hmm.
without realizing that, you know, it's there's there's shorts in their systems,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's pretty disappointing. It gets bad names
Mm-hmm.
for people, you know, in the industry.
I know a guy, I don't know a guy, but I read in Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, he talks about a factory, and the guy walked in, and he owned the place, and he walked in, and at one point they had, I don't know, like 1,500 employees, and he didn't know people who were working for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so the solution he came up with is every time they got to a certain number, they broke off and started another factory.
Mm-hmm.
And so in doing that and putting a person in charge of each one of those, that person was able to know, you know, whatever your maximum capacity was
Right.
for a personal relationship.
Right.
And because he divvied it up that way, they were able to grow successfully without overwhelming whoever the person in charge was.
It's a good
And
point.
it sounds like these companies that just get too big and
Well, and
the wheel doesn't turn anymore.
It's about systems and processes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of it, but there's always, as you get bigger, them systems and processes, it's more working parts, and you know, I know smaller companies, bigger than me, of course, that a licensed individual doesn't. So this is one thing that I like to stick with in the state of North Carolina, you can replace a gas water heater. This is a good example of this. You can replace a gas water heater like for like. In other words, same gallon size, same location. You can replace it like for like in a residential setting.
Mm-hmm.
Residential, non-attached. So personal house pretty much.
Right.
Single family dwelling
Mm-hmm.
without a permit. You don't have to have a permit, but it's up to the license holder. It states in the code book, the licensed individual has to inspect and bubble check the gas line. I get calls all the time for that. Had a water heater put in, smells like gas. They won't answer the phone. The kid that started plumbing, and I was that kid at one time. You know, I can't say anything bad about, you know, somebody trying to learn, but you go out there and there's a fitting not tight or something.
Right.
So I never want to, that's what I mean by, I never want to outgrow my name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's companies that the licensed individual is hardly even there.
Right.
They're out, you know, doing whatever they do, and they have guys out running around doing who knows what. Nobody knows. You know,
The scary part. It's very scary. Yeah.
you know, it gets back, you know, and I could, like I said, I could get back and go on about that. You know, plumbers protect the health of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Lowe's will let you go wild with stuff these days. I see some wild things. That gets on subjects that, I mean, I could go on about this for hours. I think this is an important thing for homeowners to hear too, is common colds can be caused by improper plumbing. Your allergies can be caused by improper plumbing. You know, a lot of people don't take that into account. You know, plumbing prevents a lot of disease in this country. They take it for granted.
Yeah.
And if you can simply just not even hook up a kitchen sink quite right, you know the little P-trap under your sink?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very crucial part to your plumbing system. And if it's not put in there correctly, it can't hold the sewer gases and the bacteria and things like that. So, you know, there's sicknesses, there's things, water quality issues and stuff like that. People don't take into account that, you know, is very important in this industry. We could have a whole nother show on that. I totally could, you know.
Yeah, but those are definitely great points. So I think we'll just go ahead and transition into the 3 questions we have brewing for you. That's actually my favorite part, actually. So
why is this your favorite part? I gotta ask.
Well, I mean, because it's something we ask every person.
These are the standard across the
Yeah.
board, and these are the 3 that most interest us,
Yeah.
and are kind of influenced by
Yeah.
some of our favorite podcasters. So
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Let's do it.
It seems a little too excited. It always makes me nervous.
It's like, wow, he's way too amped up about that.
Yeah, this might be dangerous.
All right. First one. What are you currently reading?
What am I currly reading?
Could be a book. It could be a book. Blog,
Dude, he didn't tell you my background. Did he? I don't really
the
know.
North Carolina Code Book.
North Carolina. I love it.
North Carolina.
I mean,
Code Book.
I would probably have to say yes to that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's on a regular basis. Either I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I call a buddy of mine a lot. He's fresh out. You know, I'll say, hey, I don't remember the answer to this, or I'll flip through the code book to make sure I'm still up on things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about to the extent of my reading. If it doesn't involve, you know, working, then I'm probably not doing too much of it. I know that's probably a poor answer, but
No, that's a great answer. No, you gotta stay up
That's fair.
to date on your actual profession. I get it.
So the next one is when you're not, you know, putting plumbing systems together and fixing people's problems. What do you like to do for fun?
And saving the world too. You've got saving the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that bacteria thing, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a good point.
I might can shorten that whole thing too, instead of a whole episode for it. What am I doing when I'm not plumbing? I'm thinking about doing plumbing. I do honestly love what I do. More so just the work. Outside of everything else besides, you know, everything, I love what I do.
So I think
I
I
mean-
can back that up, because when I got out of the Army, and I won't go into too much detail, but we came up with a new sport,
Mhm.
we'll leave it at that involved PVC pipes
yeah.
and fittings. So we came up with something to do for fun that involved
That
his
involved plumbing,
trade
yeah.
specifically.
That's pretty cool.
As far as stuff outside of that, I really don't have. I like riding motorcycles. I don't
Okay.
really do much of that anymore. Probably, I mean, I like modifying things.
Mhm.
You know that. You know, working on cars, doing custom stuff. You know, pretty much what I like doing. Building things.
Yeah, I like that, like creative spirit. And last question is, how can people find you? Website, Facebook, Instagram, how can people get a hold of you?
Soon to be Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, website. It's pretty catchy. It's getqualityservicetoday.com.
I like that.
You know, leads back to some jokes my buddies tell me about my name, but then it's Quality Service Today, Facebook.
Okay. If people, like if they're old school and they wanna call you, or you got a phone number
Yeah.
they can call?
Yep, they can call. I got the one number I know right off the top of my head is my direct line is 336-694-3085,
Okay.
and then that's probably the best way you can text me.
Mhm.
2019.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You can email me. That's Aaron@getqualityservicetoday.com. It's a big one.
Right. So people can get a hold of you in multiple ways. That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I just want to say thanks again for coming on. I think this was very helpful to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So I hope that they get a little bit of value out of it. And then thanks for coming all the way out here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. We'll definitely catch up on those Ryan stories and all the embarrassing stuff you have on Ryan after the show. So.
Real quick, the one thing we're working on is if you guys found any value in this whatsoever, and I know you do because we've had chocolatiers on here, we've had owners of nonprofits who help underprivileged children, and owner of a nonprofit who helps people who have cancer. Now we've had a plumber, therapists who work in the music and dance industry, and last week with our hemp store owner and the CBD oil. So if up to this point or currently you have found any value whatsoever in any of our show, then I encourage you to like, subscribe, share, and follow. Whether you're watching currently, we're live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and then of course we broadcast every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. to every major podcast platform. Our two primary goals here, which you heard in the recorded introduction, so that any of the non-live versions, is to spotlight local industries such as Aaron, his business, and what he does for a living, and to spotlight local breweries as well. So if that brings value to you up to this point, we appreciate everyone who has supported us. We hope that you get more value out of the show, and I encourage you to like and subscribe so everyone else can see it.
How about you do the outro this time?
And just like that,
We're out. Thank you, guys. Good job. I think that went pretty well. Very well. We done? Uh-oh. Is that a fiddle with that?
yeah, I don't know how to end this one.
Just hit the hammer. Can't find a bullet or wrench to it. It's
Yeah,
not on
that's
the ground.
right.